have two questions that go together here. So the first one is, I'm struggling with complete pacifism. Isn't Jesus the same when he put the ear back on the man as he was when he cleared the temple? And if Jesus brought God's shalom, then why did he say, I came not to bring peace, but a sword?
Ah, good. Want me to take this one first?
Yeah, Greg, why did he?
True friend. Well, I'll start with the second thing. The first question wasn't Jesus, I thought you said insane when he put the ear.
No, the same.
The same. Oh. So I was going to say,
Jesus...
he did look insane when he put the ear. Yes, Jesus was the same as when he put the ear back on the guard as when he cleared the temple. People have this idea that clearing the temple was a violent activity. Like Jesus had a temper tantrum or something, and he just got mad and started throwing over temples and wanted to start beating up people. I don't think it was all like that. I'd argue, and in doing this, I'm not at all a minority. I think this is the bulk of New Testament scholarship would argue this, that this was a calculated event. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment, hot-tempered thing that Jesus did. He was fulfilling a prophecy in Zechariah as the Messiah who was supposed to come and clear the temple. That was what was prophesied. He was laying the groundwork to get arrested. He was instigating authorities. I think this was all, he came to get crucified. And this is one way of doing it. It wasn't a off-the-cuff, hot-tempered sort of a thing. And if you read the accounts carefully, there's no indication of violence, except to tables. He did turn over the tables. But that was it. John says he made a whip, but he tells us what he made the whip for. It was to create a stampede for animals to run out of the temple. That's the way you always startle animals and get them flowing in a certain direction, is to crack a whip. And so he cracks the whip to get the animals running in a certain direction. It doesn't say at all he used it on people or the animals. If he would have had any violence towards any human in that temple, he would have been immediately accused of hypocrisy, because all of his teachings are against that. And he would have been exposed as just being a total hypocrite. And secondly, he would have got arrested on the spot if he would have accosted any of the folks in there. He wouldn't have been around the next day. So there's nothing that indicates that it was an aggressive act for sure. But there's nothing. God gets aggressive sometimes, and if it's done out of love for the purpose of furthering love, then that's a permissible thing. Then as to if he came to bring peace, shalom, why did he say, I didn't come to bring peace but a sword? It's always important, remember, to put things in context and look at what is the immediate context that he's talking about. And because if you don't do that, you have Jesus just contradicting himself again. And whenever you find yourself having an interpretation of two verses where there's a contradiction, that's one good indication that you don't have the right interpretation. If Jesus says, I came to bring peace. No, I didn't come to bring peace. Well, what is it? If you look at the context, Jesus is in that passage talking about the great cost of discipleship. And he's, throughout the whole context, using a great deal of hyperbole, which is simply exaggeratory language, which is a part of Semitic culture and Semitic language. You use hyperbole, exaggeratory language, startling language to put an exclamation point on things. It's always important to remember that when you're interpreting the Bible. Otherwise, you can take things literally that weren't meant to be taken literally. Like, if your eye offends you, cut it out and cast it from you. Don't take that literally. It wouldn't help even if you did. But he's just stressing a point. And here, Jesus is talking about the cost of discipleship. So in a hyperbolic way, he says, unless you hate your mother and father, you can't be my disciple. Well, he doesn't mean it literally. He's simply stating in a Semitic way that we are to prefer Jesus and put him in such a higher priority that it's as though the difference between him and loving our parents was one of love and hate. But he didn't mean it literally, otherwise he'd be breaking one of the 10 Commandments. And then he says, don't think I've come to bring peace but a sword. And he goes on to add, I'm going to be dividing. Because of me, families will be divided. Fathers from their children, mothers from their daughters, brother against brother, sister against brother. Sister against sister. And so what he's saying is, because of this, now that I'm here, don't think that this is going to be an easy road. I've come to bring peace. But it's not a peace that's going to be costless. It's going to be a costly peace. And it's one where you need to be prepared to be rejected by your spouse, be rejected by your parent, be rejected by your children. The family may disown you. And as a matter of fact, throughout history, that's often been the case. As a matter of fact, to this day, in a lot of parts of the world, if you follow Jesus, you have to be prepared to accept that sword, a sword that will divide families. I know that my first ministry opportunity was with this man who was from India. And he says that in his particular town, it had changed somewhat, but in many parts of India, especially where you're under strong Hindu rule, especially where they've forbidden evangelism, which they have done at various times, that to become a Christian, if you're baptized as a Christian, your family will disown you, never speak to you again. Maybe will turn you into authorities. That's the cost of discipleship. But Jesus clearly wasn't saying, if you compare Scripture with Scripture, wasn't saying that in any literal sense he came to give us a sword. No, it's be prepared for division.
Okay, great.